If you look at a map of Europe or North America, borders look like squiggly organic lines. They follow river basins, mountain crests, and natural shorelines, the physical contours of the earth where human beings naturally gather, settle, and defend themselves over thousands of years. But look at a map of the Middle East, and you'll see something that should instantly alarm any intelligence analyst: straight lines. Straight lines do not exist in nature. Straight lines are imposed. They happen when men who have never stepped foot on the land sit down at a conference table with a ruler, a pen, and a complete disregard for the tribes, sects, and communities living on the ground. Today, those of us educated in Western systems still look at this region through a jaundiced, Eurocentric lens. We treat Arab as a monolith, shorthand for Muslim, ignoring thousands of years of rich, complex, and often conflicting identities. My name is Papa, and welcome back to class. Today we're unpacking how a term coined by British bureaucrats, a desperate search for coal-to-oil naval conversions in 1913, and a secret meeting in 1916 carved up an empire, ignored human reality, and trapped generations in a cycle of instability. Long before lines were drawn on a desert map, the fuel of empire wasn't oil, it was coal, wood, and whale oil. But between 1885 and 1908, the world changed forever. Carl Benz patented the internal combustion automobile, Henry Ford mass-produced the Model T, and suddenly the global demand for refined petroleum exploded. Oil was no longer just for lighting lamps, it was becoming the lifeblood of modern industry, transportation, and military power. World powers realized that whoever controlled the flow of oil would control the 20th century. In 1913, First Lord of the Admiralty Winston Churchill made a high-stakes gamble. He ordered the British Royal Navy to convert its entire war fleet from Welsh coal to oil. Oil-powered ships were faster, had greater range, and required fewer crewmen, but Britain had a massive problem. It had plenty of coal at home, but zero oil. To secure the oil needed to power its navy, the British government bought a controlling 51% stake in the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. Suddenly, controlling the Middle East's oil fields was no longer just a commercial interest, it was a paramount matter of national security for the British Empire. Then came 1916. With World War I raging, British diplomat Mark Sykes and French diplomat François-Georges Picot met in secret. Armed with colored pencils and a map, they drew lines across the Middle East, dividing up the lands of the collapsing Ottoman Empire into British and French spheres of influence. They didn't consult local leaders. They didn't account for Sunni, Shia, Kurd, or Christian populations. They simply drew straight lines to secure oil corridors, ports, and trade routes, creating artificial nation-states that bound together historic rivals and severed natural communities. Fast forward a century, and the cracks in those colonial foundations are impossible to ignore. By smashing together distinct ethnic and religious groups into single states and splitting cohesive populations like the Kurds across 4 different nations, these borders guaranteed perpetual political instability. Look at Iraq and Syria. Autocrats and dictators held these artificial constructs together through sheer force for decades. When those central powers collapsed, the nation-states didn't hold, they fractured along the exact tribal, religious, and ethnic lines Sykes and Picot ignored in 1916. Understanding today's headlines isn't about blaming history, it's about understanding the map. When you know who drew the lines, you start to see why peace requires looking beyond them. I'm Papa, class dismissed. Hit subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next briefing.